invite Reverend Jill McDonald to start our meeting today with a karakia. Very warm welcome, Jill. Can I just say that we're very proud of the partnership that we have with St Andrews and yourself, and just all working together on the wellbeing of our community. Thank you.
Kia ora, kia ora. Tia ino tātou, let us pray. Matua, tama, wairua tapu, I ino e ana matua kia koe. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, we bring our prayer before you. As we enter into spring here in Heretaunga, give our Hastings City District leaders the wisdom and the courage to put care for our environment at the forefront of all their decision making. And as we see groups and individuals going against the common good and seeking to put their specific agenda first as they stand for councils around New Zealand, we pray that all who are elected have a strong sense of loving our neighbour and seeking to put that first. With the election looming, we pray for high engagement from voters, so that in these times that call for much wisdom and love, that the best candidates are elected. God, we are so conscious of how vital good leadership is going to be in the years ahead. We give thanks for the Mayor and all of the councillors who have been part of this council for their service and their care of this district for the last 3 years. May the incoming council build on all the work that has been done before and not be afraid to make tough decisions. Gracious God, you long for all people to flourish. May all that is decided around this table enable that to happen, and especially for the whānau punamu of our district, those who struggle the most. May you bless this meeting with your love, grace and peace. E aroto I te ingoa o ipu karate. Amen.
Thank you for the lovely karakia, Reverend Joel. Really appreciate that. And could we have our waiata now? Thank you. We've still got somebody who can play our guitar, Councillor Baden Baba. Thank you. That might have to be a condition of a new councillor. Can you play the guitar and sing a waiata? Wendy, have you selected? Okay. Cool.
Asanesi, he aroha te whakapono te rangi Māori e tātou e. Turipa. E aroha te whakapono te rangi Māori e tātou e. Up on note.
Kia ora. A very warm welcome to our Youth Council. We're very excited to have you present your very first youth strategy to us. Can I acknowledge and welcome Chairperson Lena, Esther, Monty and Riley, lovely to have you with us today, and all the team and staff who are helping us with bringing our mahi to the table. Just some highlights when I look over and reflect the time in the last month as we've all managed through some, major health and wellbeing issues. There's been some incredible achievements, and I'd just like to share a couple of those with you now. It started, and not in any order, but the blessing of the Kāweka extension to the new hospital, an amazing facility that opened, and also the blessing of the stage 2, which will bring some incredible services to Hawke's Bay like we haven't seen before. The opening of 44 new homes in Cody Street with the Prime Minister, and seeing whānau being able to enjoy going into their new home was something I'll never forget. Working with our health and thanking and celebrating the incredible work of our health workers at our celebration in the municipal. Thank you everyone who attended that night. It was amazing to bring all our health workers together after 2.5 years of managing through COVID and thanking them with a wonderful celebration. And thank you to the staff who organised that. Fair Pacifica Day, and I know Councillor Sholem and Councillor Ollie, we all came down, Chief Executive Nigel, and we had the most amazing Pacifica celebration in functions on Hastings. And as only our Pacifica community can do so well, we celebrated everything great about Pacifica, even up there trying to do a hula myself, which was very funny. And I hope I never see the photo, Councillor Sholem. The opening of our regional Aquatic Center, water facility, and having the PM opening that incredible regional aquatic centre, $44 million investment in a facility just adding to our regional sports park. Nothing else like this amazing facility in regions across New Zealand, I think. Tonight we open the last of our hospo in the Muni, 495, with Michael Henley, and that will complete our tenancies to create our Toi Toi Arts and Events Centre hospo tenants, and we wish them all the very best, and sensational to have a wine master in our city showcasing our region's wines. The resource consent has come through for the new Flaxmere supermarket, and we were able to farewell Chris and his team, who are now leaving Flaxmere and moving to Auckland, and welcomed the new Flaxmere supermarket owner. And Chris has done an incredible job through COVID, supporting our whānau. The Amazing Edible Fashion Awards is something I'll never forget, and been part of it for about 14, 15 years, to see it grow and strength to strength with an amazing board and amazing contributors. What an incredible Hastings event that started at our town clock. Our Tongan Language Day, thank you to Councillor Ollie for celebrating our Tongan community, our chamber full on Sunday. Sadly, I wasn't with you, but how great to be able to bring our community together to thank and acknowledge their special language. The opening of the community radio station, who has been critical in getting community news across our region, and it's now changed its name to Hawke's Bay Radio from Radio Kidnappers. And as we know, everyone has the opportunity to speak on the radio about all our community activities. So it was wonderful to formally open and officially open the radio, Hawke's Bay Radio. And we have the incredible apple project. We know our community loves and wants us to buy all the apples, but we thank the Arts and Heretaunga. It is their project. Our council, we are very grateful to have supported it, and it's been a wonderful initiative, and it'll be fabulous to take it through our Blossom Festival, which is coming up at the end of the month, where our community will come out and celebrate who we are in Heretaunga, our beautiful blossoms that are starting to come out now. The Youth Potential Awards was something that I always enjoy as one of the highlights of my year, and to have Councillor Ollie share his life's journey and to hear some of the stories from our young rangatahi who have struggled in some times of their life, and to be able to celebrate their potential and their well-being was very important for us as a council. I think that's all, but I'd like to finish in acknowledging a very, very special tōtara who has fallen. Pat Turley is one of our amazing community leaders, and Pat has been part of the Marae Tōtara Tree Trust, who have planted over 200,000 trees along many kilometres of the Tukituk River. And at a very, very sad loss to our community, Pat has also been instrumental in the Cranford Hospice project, and we will miss him dearly. And he has been a great supporter of Hastings, with our chief executive, with myself. Anytime that something happens, and I look back at my emails, something that he's proud of in Hastings, he always acknowledges it with an email. He sends us the latest stats to say how well we're doing. And there's nobody else that does that in my life, that sends those things, emails, and acknowledges the great work that as a council we are doing. So he will be hugely missed, and to hear his whānau talk about his life and their father that they've lost at his tangi on Friday, there's no question he will be greatly missed by a very wide group of community and family. Now, on to our agenda today and our apologies and leave of absence. We have welcomed Councillor Henare Keith. We're very pleased that you could be with us, and the youth court has concluded. And our councillor Eileen Lawson is very sad she can't be with us, she is sick. And also we have Councillor Harvey who has leave of absence. I'm happy to move from the chair. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Any further leave of absence? I've forgotten to ask you, probably no one's going away at this point in our careers and our lives. So that's all good. We'll put that, all those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Just remind our councillors, any conflicts of interest, we'll address those at the appropriate time. Now to move to item 4, confirmation of minutes. The minutes of the Council of 4th of August 2022 be confirmed as an accurate record, moved by Councillor Watkins, seconded by Councillor Kerr. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Item 5, now I would like to welcome our youth councillors who are here today to present the Hastings Youth Strategy 2022. We're really excited about, we've seen a preview at Great Communities, and Councillor Lawson, the Chair of Great Communities, is very sad she's not going to be here with you today. She's very proud of having worked with you through this strategy. Welcome, team, and we look forward to hearing your journey on creating a youth strategy.
And this is Esther. That's much better. I'd like to start off by saying it is unfair to acknowledge that this year's Hastings Youth Council is the only one that's put effort into creating this youth strategy. This has been an effort and a work for all the past youth councils. It has merely been officially highlighted in our youth strategy. As councillors that have worked alongside youth, you would know that there are common themes and constants that you find within youth in Hastings. Well, we have officially recognised these, and we are happy to say that we have been implementing them in our community and will continue to do so for future youth councils. This youth strategy has been a huge focus of the Youth Council both last year and this year, and I'm proud to stand here today to officially present it to you. I want to again first address that this strategy was driven by youth for youth. It is our language merely put in formal language for the council surrounding, as it is a council document. To ensure the Youth Council could best advocate for our youth and include their opinions, we formed a survey with questions that could result in open answers. This was distributed across Hastings, Flaxmere and Havelock North. We attended multiple workshops and thoroughly went through and discussed ways and issues we as youth face and how we can fix them and rectify them in appropriate ways that can accommodate for all ages of youth. If you are to remember anything from today's presentation from the Hastings Youth Council, it is to know that genuine thought and effort and sincere work has gone into the creation of this document from our youth. Developing this strategy, as all projects, is accompanied by various goals to measure its success and ensure it is serving its correct purpose continually, to guide and drive future youth councils' work for our rangatahi. One of which that we thought was most important was to provide youth with positive connections and pathways. For us, this means ensuring opportunities are available to all rangatahi and not necessarily given to the top students. We have prioritised filtering them through to all levels, both youth in school and outside of school. Youth Council will be the bridge to connect youth with supporting organisations regarding their career, if both they are in and out of school. We know all youth have the capacity to reach their dreams and to make their work into reality and make a successful career out of them. It is our job to be the connections and to connect our youth with appropriate organisations so they can achieve their goals. And we know with Council's help, we continue to do this. Hand the time over to Riley.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name's Riley. First, can I just say thank you to the team at Council who did help us out. It was youth-led, but especially Kev, Emma Haxon, Emma James, Denise, Pip, they helped us out a lot, and everyone else who was involved in the background as well, so thank you. I'm on the Youth Council's Sustainable Communities Subcommittee, and I want to talk about youth-friendly communities, which is goal 2 of the strategy, if you have it in front of you, page 10. So the goal is that we have youth-friendly communities within which Hastings youth feel a sense of belonging, welcome, and safety. This is obviously something we want in order to empower our youth. And it says on the document it's got wider benefits as well. In the strategy, it talks about adding vibrancy and fun to the heart of Hastings, building pride and enjoyment while also supporting local businesses. If I can summarise the part how this will be achieved, I think it's about having quality facilities as well as events, initiatives, programs that build the sense of belonging, welcome and safety. A couple specifics there. We want youth to have leadership opportunities. So the Youth Council is a good example. It's an advocacy group, but with each Youth Council cohort, Hastings produces quality leaders, and we're on about sustainability. That is an important aspect. These opportunities, as Lena mentions, should extend to not necessarily the top achievers, at-risk groups, because we know everyone has potential and it's about unlocking that potential. Celebrating achievement, so award nights, Youth Potential Awards, Asians in the Bay Awards are initiatives we support. And some other bullet points there. Playgrounds, recreation spaces, they are investments into young people and the future of Hastings. Of course, we support those. A youth-friendly community is also about being safe. A big theme that came out of our discussion was feeling safe on the streets, not being harassed, especially at night. So we support solutions to increase young people's feelings of safety in Hastings. One thing we also talked about is installing security cameras around town. They are a deterrent as much as anything else. So, thank you. I will hand it over to Esther.
Another goal of the youth strategy was youth voice and action. And if I've learned anything from being on the youth council, it is that youth voice has power. And this youth strategy is evidence that youth voice can make things happen. And that's why I think it's such an important goal in this youth strategy, that recognising the ways that youth can have voice in our community and how youth can make change. And I think the youth council is an important aspect of this goal. I'll now hand it over to Monty.
Cool. Kia ora tātou, ko Monty Tumu tōku ingoa. So I'm on the Community and Youth Engagement Subcommittee. Just some goals that we've touched on over the past few weeks would be supporting diverser and more ethnic equality communities. So earlier this year, we some of our members attended the Hastings Pride March, which also inspired us, the Youth Council, to hold a similar event targeted for youth. We've also been building upon the culture of diversity amongst youth in Hastings. Also, another target for us would be to assist any youth in overcoming negative stereotypes, which is quite a personal one for me, coming from a gang-related background, overcoming those stereotypes and really assisting other youth to do so. Another one would be making connections with other youth groups to build upon our knowledge and really go towards a more diverse and supportive youth community. Yeah. Cheers.
Another one of the goals is a strong and connected youth sector. And I really think, again, connection has so much power, and I think that's important that it is reflected in the strategy through this goal. And connecting youth councils' connection to youth, but also council as a whole's connection to youth. And I think that's so important. This strategy recognises that.
More on what Esther has just said. This year, you may or may not have seen our social media accounts, both on Facebook and Instagram. And this year, we really prioritise, especially with COVID, so online connections are very important, especially for youth these days. It was also about being relatable and not necessarily putting ourselves on a podium and saying, we're the youth council, we know what we're doing. We didn't want to put ourselves as a hierarchy. And so we made sure that we made relatable personal content that our youth can be attracted to and therefore increase engagement and answer our questions online as well. We have also, last year, we were a part of many workshops, as previously mentioned, and so many themes in the survey that we sent out were highlighted, especially mental health. It is important to note that when our survey was sent out, it was sent out at a time that we were just coming out of COVID. So mental health was a huge factor to consider in our work, and so just please take that in mind when looking at the results. And we will continue as youth councils and encourage future youth councils as well to really focus and knuckle down on the mental health side of things and connect them with the appropriate services. Yes, we'll talk more about the themes.
Another key theme was community connections, and I think it's important for the youth council to be connected to our youth, but also to our community's rangatira sitting in this room and our rangatira from our whole community. And this connection has so many ways that it can happen, and I think this youth strategy is so important that it really outlines those. Another key theme I know it came up quite often in our youth council meetings, and it was reflected in that survey, was feeling safe. A major thing youth want is to feel safe, and I think in the youth strategy, it's got a real focus of the feeling safe. You know, being able to walk to your car at night, that's a really key thing for our youth.
I know this short presentation hasn't done nearly enough justice for all the hard work that has gone into this. So I'd like to thank youth councils for coming and thank you for listening. Is there any questions at all?
Thank you. Councillor Sholon.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to the Youth Council and also the extended team here, Denise, the whole team, for the huge amount of work that's gone into this. As Ms. Sandra said, I know that Councillor Lawson would love to be here. She was so thrilled when this was presented at Great Community Subcommittee meeting. So in her stead, I'd just like to ask a couple of questions that were covered at Great Communities, just to make sure that the community and the whole council are aware of your answers. One of the things that came out is how wonderful this is that it has been entirely youth-led, and this is your voice and telling us what you want from your perspective in our community. A big part of the strategy is ongoing engagement for the delivery, and so a question that came up at Great Communities that I'm hoping you can answer for us here is, how will past this year, given that the Youth Council goes year on year, the strategy continue to be rolled out? What's the continuity planning?
So as Youth Council, we've also planned to keep official records of sort of all the events we've planned so that youth councils, we've found this year it's been hard to access past events where we can gauge what others have done, what has been successful and what hasn't. So we've been working on that this year to ease it for future youth councils.
And also aligning our values with the youth strategy, making sure we're all on the same page, and then therefore those values are reflected and they're really instilled in the youth council culture.
I see Mr. Carter's coming to the microphone.
Just from an Optim monitoring point of view, staff will report the actions through the Optim monitoring committee as well.
Fantastic. And I also understand that you have continuity planning in the sense that a number of the youth councillors will be aiming to return next year as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Look, I don't have any questions, Your Worship. I'd just love to move the recommendations if that's all right. I think this is an incredibly exciting step for council. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Sears. Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Your Worship, and fantastic job, youth councillors. Incredible strategy. What I'm so excited about is your commitment to engage with community, particularly through events. And I see you've been talking to more than 1,000 young people to bring together this strategy. We're in the month of September, and this is Blossom Festival month. Always will be. So I'm going to put a challenge to you for next year. How fantastic if you could get all the talent of the young people of Hastings to create a float. The young people of Hastings, and in a moment in time in front of 20,000 people, you can take a float through and show everything that makes the young people of Hastings so special. So I congratulate you, but I leave you with that challenge.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. No pressure. Councillor Travers.
I'd just like to congratulate everybody involved with this piece of work. It is absolutely first rate, and it's a first for us. I'm not sure whether there are other councils who have similar documents, but in terms of Hastings District, it's a leading piece of work and will bring great benefit to the young people of Hastings and our district in the years to come. I do, though, have one slight issue. Before this gets disseminated any further, it just needs a little bit of an edit. What has crept through in our graphics is what is designated by the Anti-Defamation League as an international symbol of hate. And I'm not going to name what that is, but I'm happy to talk to all concerned because it would be
Thank you, Geraldine. We'll pick that up, and Denise has got that sorted. Thank you. Councillor Barber.
Tēnā koutou, i te hunga rangatahi i te pai o tēnei mahere, ko whakaatu hia nei kia tātou tēnei rā, i nei kia koutou o te whakapainga o te werawera, kia tutuki pai ai tēnei mahere. Rautaki. You just want to congratulate you all on the great plan and the work that's gone into it. I think it's fantastic. I did, I'm very interested in our rangatahi Māori and rangatahi full stop. But I was interested in the pathways part of the goals there, and I think that's a key goal. And I did see that there is an action around identifying pathways for our rangatahi, Māori and Pacifica, which I think is really important. So I guess the question is, what are your whakaaro around connecting with iwi and marae? Because Kaununu's got nearly 100 marae up and down our rohe, and there's an opportunity for a lot of our rangatahi to connect back to marae. Because I think if our young people are connected with their turanga waiwai, it's going to help them in their life, not just their careers, but in their life. And I can attest to that. So, did you have any thoughts around that? I'll put that question out there. Kia ora.
Not to my knowledge, of the time that we've been on Youth Council, I don't think Youth Council has been that connected with local iwi yet. So actually, really thank you for bringing that up. We'd love to be able to connect with Ngāti Kahungunu. I know we'd all, that really help our youth. And we have had, especially our Māori youth, talking about finding pathways and just, again, overcoming the stereotypes so they have their successful futures. I hope that actually answers your question. Thank you.
Because in the past, we have had the youth council they came out to our marae at Waimarama one time, and we had a bit of a noho and a catch-up. So I'll just put that out there. We've got 100 marae in Kaununu that would be keen to give our youth a bit of some exposure to that side, which is important. Yeah, kapai. Kia ora tātou.
Awesome, kia ora, Baden.
Through you, Your Worship,
Yes.
we're really happy to connect
Yes.
Councillor Barber through Ngāti Kahungunu iwi.
Kapai.
Kapai, thank you. That's very exciting. Councillor Ollie.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to congratulate the team and the Youth Council for a beautiful strategy. But more so like to make a comment to you, Monty. The comment that you made earlier might have flown over a lot of our heads. So I just want to acknowledge you, bro, for saying you've come from a gang-affiliated background, yet you stand in this building presenting a beautiful strategy to these well-established and prestigious people in this room. So I want to break that stereotype that you've broken. You've come from a background in Flaxmere, from a gang-affiliated family, and look at you. You're here. You've accomplished so many things, not only at school, but also on the rugby field. So I want to acknowledge you, bro, and you've inspired me today, and for you to even mention that is amazing. So well done, brother.
Kia ora. Ngā mihi, Councillor Ollie. And can I just say also congratulations. I thoroughly enjoy my monthly meeting with our dynamic youth council. I had a young wahine in yesterday, and she wanted to video me about maths and how we use maths in our everyday lives, how we use maths in council. And her name is Te Aroha Mohi, and she is a leader at Hastings Intermediate School. I talked to her about the Youth Council, and I think that the time is right. We've talked about it for a few years, haven't we, Denise? But the time is right to bring our intermediate leaders through. Now, she said, when can I join the Youth Council? How old do I have to be? She's like this dynamic. She's ready to go. She's videoing me on everything about how we use maths in our council and life, and then what qualifications did I have to be the mayor? She's out there doing it. So I think that we have got some dynamic leadership at intermediate that we need to think about how we bring them through for Youth Council. Instead of starting with a blank page, but actually bringing the leadership and the succession through. So I'll just leave you there to have to ponder on that for our next meeting in the Mayor's office. So thank you for your amazing mahi, and look forward to working with you and delivering the strategy over the next few years. Ngā mihi nui, kia ora koutou. So we've got a mover and a seconder, and I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. Carried and well done. Our next is a petition, a draft reserve management plan for Tainui, Tana, Toroa, Hikanui and Keith Sands Grove reserves. This is the petition that has been received from Jessica Maxwell. Unfortunately, Jessica couldn't be with us today to present the petition, and now I invite Louise Stegner to read the petitioner's prayer. Welcome, Louise. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Your Worship has mentioned, Ms Maxwell wasn't able to make this afternoon's meeting, but she did ask me if I could read aloud the prayer of the petition that she submitted, so I'll just do that quickly now. The petitioner's prayer reads as follows. We, the undersigned, petition the elected Hastings District Council to pause the submission process for the draft reserve management plan for Tainui, Tana, Toroa, Hikanui and Keith Sands Grove reserves, as the draft RMP is an incomplete document in that it does not include a crucial health and safety report. The draft RMP and submission process appear unsafe and unsatisfactory as the draft RMP appears to breach the Reserves Act, the Heritage New Zealand Pohere Taonga Act 2014 and Consolidated Bylaw 2.2.21. We petition the Council to obtain a robust, independent health and safety report pertaining to all user groups and all reserves, and obtain an external legal opinion to determine if the draft RMP complies with or breaches the above acts and bylaw. For transparency, this information should be made public so that people can then make informed submissions. That's the end of the petition.
Thank you very much. And this paper, as you'll read, councillor, is about receiving the petition. And I've got a couple of questions, and I hope that the 21 submitters are able to submit to the reserve management plan and outline any of their concerns or the opportunities for change. I have a couple of questions. Councillor Kerr.
Your Worship, I was prepared to move the recommendations as they are. I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shodham second. Councillor Nixon.
Yes, thanks. I'm just interested to note that, I'm not sure who I'm addressing, is it Mr. Hosford? Note that we don't have a specific provision for the health and safety issues regarding the park. And I just wondered, is that normal? How do we take that into account? And when does this petition go through automatically, or do the petitioners now have to resubmit for the as part of a submission?
The plan itself, Councillor, the plan itself, we have undertaken a health and safety review back in 2019 at the beginning of this process. And that health and safety review looked at all the walking tracks and cycle tracks, made some recommendations they were requested by council, and all the recommendations that came from that safety audit have been put in place. No other work has been done in Tainui Reserve in particular, or any of those reserves, on any of the tracks apart from any emergency work that had to be done. So in terms of the health and safety report, it is still largely current. On top of that, the process itself has allowed community groups, care groups, as a number of councillors, well, all of you will be aware, we engaged a huge amount of people on what their aspirations and what their belief is of how we develop the parks in the future. That's what the RMP process has all been about. So everyone has had an opportunity to submit, and for instance, the draft plan shows changes to the mountain bike track to do exactly what the petitioners are saying, if you like, to make it safer. We actually have a plan that actually separates mountain bikers from walkers, and that was one of the prime aims of the whole review, was to actually look at ways that we can make traversing the park safe for all users. So there is no particular requirement for health and safety apart from what we would do in any of our parks from day to day. But in this case, there had been a health and safety review, and the recommendations that actually came back to council and were adopted have been put in place. So as officers, we're pretty confident that worked, and we're very confident that worked, and also the process for this plan will flush out any other issues. There are very few requirements that we've seen to date. There's been, very few submissions raising issues around health and safety, apart from, I guess, primarily what this petition says.
Thank you. And we're talking about the process. So Councillor Nixon. Yes, thank you. Yeah. So the process.
Okay, so the process is, when we were first aware of this petition, there was an actual initial version of this. All the petitioners were advised that their concerns should be addressed as submissions, put them in as submissions, to the reserve management plan, and at that stage, it would be approximately 4 weeks ago, they were advised, put your submissions in and they will all come towards council. So it's not as though this petition, which submissions closed yesterday, yes, but in saying so, they were advised a month ago that have your say, this is the process, this is the right process by having your say about any issues, including health and safety.
Thank you, Mr. Hosford, and those recommendations highlight that.
Yeah, I'm just talking process. So if they haven't submitted to the plan, does this end up getting incorporated or is it the end of the line?
They have the opportunity to submit, and if anybody else wants to add anything, and that has been reflected in the report, and it also says in the paper, Councillor Nixon, that the officers have offered to present all of the reports to the petitioners. Thank you. All right, I have a mover and a seconder. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Welcome to Mr. John Payne, Animal Control Annual Report 2021-2022. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Good afternoon. An information report only, still trending in the right direction. Having been involved in dog control for many, many years, I can tell you that the statistics in here are really looking good. And I don't know, there's got to come a time, I think, where we're going to level out. So we're certainly heading in the right direction, and I would say if we did a comparison to other councils, we'd find we were very favourable. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, John. And can I take a moment to just acknowledge your team? You know, sometimes not the easiest job, and so I just want to point out that they do an outstanding job in some very, very difficult circumstances often.
Thank you.
Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Worship. I support the change in the flavour of your team since you've been here has been noticeable over the years. I'm just wondering, can this report please be sent to the Rural Community Board simply as information only? I think they would appreciate knowing it. And rather than waiting to the next meeting, I think just sending it out now. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Kerr. We'll put that down as an action. Councillor Sholom.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you also from me in terms of the way your team approaches people who end up in a particular situation where they have a barking dog, as I have had in the past. Interesting to note that COVID-19 seems to have had another beneficial outcome in some regards, with potentially more people being home, therefore less barking dogs.
Yes.
And just really happy to move the recommendations, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Sholom. Councillor Redstock.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm very encouraged by the numbers, John, and thank you for your work. I'm just interested in the same question I probably ask every time. Are the dogs being euthanised? Is that declining, that number?
It's not declining, it's remaining static, but what we can confirm is that every dog that's deemed suitable is home placed. So we have to get the balance exactly right. We don't want to be home placing dogs that are not suitable to go back out there. So we're 100% successful, even if we have to hold them an extra week or two.
Thank you for that. I do share those posts on Facebook, and I'm happy to second the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Redstone. Councillor Sears.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Sandra. John, I know you have to report on specific indicators, but is the aggression also including stock attacks and RA2, or is there a figure?
Yes.
Are they combined?
Yes, yes. It includes dogs rushing at people, dogs biting people, any acts of aggression.
Sorry, and stock, as in
Yeah,
animal
and
stock?
attacking other animals, other dogs or other stock. Yeah.
Both. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sears. I have a mover and a seconder. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Moving on to item number, thank you very much, John. Moving on to item number 8, that's the Whakatū West Stormwater Stage 2 proposal. This is about progressing with investigations and detailed design for construction of a stormwater pump station at Whakatu West. Warm welcome to you, Brett. Great to see that we're getting some progress.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Afternoon, councillors. It's just a brief presentation. I'll take the report as read, but just want to cover off a few issues if I could.
Are you right to click it along? Or do you want me to do it?
Yep, I can click it along. Just need to get it up on the screen. There we go. Right, yeah. So just as a bit of background, as I've reported previously, the scheme was established in 2007. Stage one was a gravity solution, pipeline out to the Clive River, and it was designed around providing a 1 in 5 year capacity rain event. And importantly, there was no climate change factor in the design of the pipe capacity. Funding was via a targeted rate, ring-fenced to the immediate beneficiaries of the scheme, and charges were allocated on a contributing property area. The flooding assessment, you've seen this diagram before, but just to reiterate that the Whakatu West area is in a basin, and if discharge can't go through the pipe to the Clive River, then this is the flooding that occurs. The purple area is the 5-year flooding extent, and the brown is the 50-year rain event extent. What's important here is that this low-lying land at the moment is undeveloped. It's a key component of our wet industry area, so a stormwater solution will allow that low-lying land to be developed and become productive. In terms of the stormwater detention, now I have talked previously that detention is a critical component of this solution. It's not just about putting a big pump station in, because that will provide buffer for peak flows and allow the pump station to work efficiently. What I've also indicated on this diagram are some conceptual areas around stormwater detention. Now, these are not representative of scale. They're just an indication of how we might distribute that detention. We have, if I just point to the front screen here, the works drain runs along this boundary here, and there's the option to actually put some detention along this area here. In the lowest part of the low-lying land, an opportunity to link some detention through this point. And I've had initial discussions with Transpower Land. Now, this land here, the station itself obviously only takes up a relatively small proportion of that area. In my discussions with them, they obviously like to have a buffer and the potential for future expansion, but they have nothing at this stage that is indicating that they want to utilise that land. So it does provide an opportunity for us to perhaps put some detention in that area, that land, which is deemed to be unproductive because it's actually sectioned off for future Transpower use. And they were happy to contribute in some way to this solution. So that's a really that's a good positive. In terms of consultation, in March of this year, we sent out a letter of intent that we wish to progress with stage 2. And we had a public meeting on the 20th of July where that was pretty well attended. Following that, we sent out a full information pack which had the history of the scheme and conceptually what we were proposing around a pump station and why. That was sent to all landowners, and it included a survey form where we wanted to gauge initial support for progressing with design and actually getting this to a point where we could come back with a proposal. And we got a very good response to that. Around 2/3 of respondents who represented 2/3 of the land were very much in favour of pushing ahead. Pump station options. Obviously, we are leaning towards a larger pump station, and I've just had the opportunity to read the National Adaptation Plan on climate change, and it's signalling that there are key issues around climate change impacts, in particular flooding, and the impacts on infrastructure, buildings, businesses and people. So this really does sit in that camp of actually looking to put something that is larger and will have future proofing as much as we can. So the intention there is we're going to look at both the 50-year and the 100-year rain events to model that. Our design obviously needs to be clear about how much land we require for detention, so it'll be very detailed in terms of what the impacts are in terms of land. And that will obviously have an impact on the cost. We do have $1.2 million already sitting in the CapEx budget. That's been there for many years, and we're intending to use that to help fund the investigations and design. The funding options, we're proposing stage 2 as targeted rate, the same basis as was applied in stage 1. The options are paid as a lump sum, or it can be over a period of years, and that can be determined in agreement with landowners and obviously council. Now, public good has been raised on a number of occasions, so it is worthwhile that we consider this, but we do have to have a basis for that. As we know, it's a major industrial hub. We've put the transportation links into this area, and as I've previously mentioned, the Unison substation does have significant impacts, and it's in the flood-prone area, so if that were to go out, there are significant consequences as a result. In the Local Government Act, Section 101, in particular Clause 3 there's an assessment process that we are proposing to use so that we can be transparent about how we undertake that public good assessment, and it's really focused around the community outcomes, the funding sources and the cost and benefits and where they sit. So we will bring that back as part of our final report. In terms of next steps, we want to get underway with the geotech investigations to determine where the pump station can preferentially be located. We're looking at the pump station design already. As I said, we'll investigate the public good components, the stormwater detention, and then we're hoping to come back to council in February so that we can discuss the final options such that we can consider the targeted rate in the annual plan process, and then we'll commence consultation with landowners. Hopefully that concludes by June, where we can sign everything off, and then we're into construction and commissioning the second half of next year. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Brent. Very thorough and very good report, and absolutely critical we get on with this work and get some progress underway. I'm a bit concerned about late 2023, but anyway, we'll see how we progress. Any questions? Councillor Nixon?
Yes, thank you, Worship. Yeah, I do see this as highly desirable, great benefit, but in your first slide, you said the existing scheme is designed for a 1 in 5 year flood, I think it said, and this scheme with pumping, 1 in 50, yes. Potentially you're looking at 1 in 100. But what exactly does that mean? I mean, how much rain are we actually talking about and what sort of period of time? Because there are some monumental rainstorms occurring here and overseas nowadays. I just wondered how much protection we're actually buying.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Yes, this notion of 1 in 100 is changing. So we may well see that what we talk about as a 1 in 100 now is going to be a 1 in 50 year rain event in the future. So the frequency and the volumes that we are going to be dealing with, it's quite clear the frequency of flooding and the intensity of flooding will increase, and we need to be cognizant of that. It's always very difficult to project or predict exactly what it's going to be in, say, 50 years' time or 100 years' time, but we actually have to undertake that work and make our best estimate of what that might be. It doesn't prevent further solutions in the future. i.e. either upsizing pump stations or creating some more detention. But we don't want to lock all of that in today with our solution. So I think the solution will be adaptive to what may come in the future.
What I'm trying to get to is exactly how much rain we're talking. I mean, we saw in Nelson a metre of rain in...
Councillor Nixon, we're actually focusing on the recommendations to progress investigation, whether we want to progress investigation.
We've done that.
No, those are the recommendations. You're happy to move them?
Yeah, I'll move it, yeah.
Thank you very much. Councillor Redstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to say I attended that meeting and I was very encouraged to hear generally in the room the attendees were very keen to have the bigger pump because they were concerned about climate change and I would support that. Just a question, so would public good be around the roads and transport more than anything, Brett?
I think we're guided a bit by the government's climate change adaptation objectives, which is about ensuring that properties, buildings and people are kept safe, because the consequent impact of that is realised in cost for insurance. The cost to actually fix things up sometimes is greater than the cost to actually provide a solution and buffer some of that. So climate change is really directing us in terms of all of the things that we need to consider and the cascade effect and impacts that they have. But yes, that links to infrastructure, transport, buildings, people, the natural environment.
Thank you, very comprehensive study, so I'm happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Redstone. Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Brett, thank you for your report. It's very, very clear. Just one thing you stated, that the flow reduces as levels in the Clyde River rise. What impact does the condition of the Clyde River have on any flooding in this area? And I'm meaning by the silt, weed, lack of dredging, bar blockages, regional council's responsibility. What impact does that have?
Through you, Madam Chair, we will take that into our design. So we will account for different levels in the Clyde River. So if the Clyde River is choked, then there's a potential, if we're putting more water into it, it could have an impact downstream. So that's something we have to think about with the regional council, have a discussion with them. Ultimately, we need to have a consent to undertake the works in the Clyde River, and we'll have to undertake an impact assessment. So it perhaps provides us an opportunity to sheet home to the regional council that they have a joint responsibility to make sure that this scheme works beyond Whakatu West, but also downstream.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you. Last speaker, Councillor Barber.
Yeah, kia ora. Just in terms of the increased output threshold that's going to be exceeded to implement a new stormwater package. In terms of the impact on the Ngāti River and the, I guess, cultural values stuff, because we've had Te Ara Kahikatea come through there. I mean, we had with it's been a lot of infrastructure go through Whakatu. However, I didn't see much in that area, and it's quite a sizable development should it happen. Yeah.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Councillor Barber. Yes, look, it's going to be critical in terms of the application that we put to the regional council in terms of where we want to build the pump station, how we want to build it, and both the operational impacts but also the impacts while we're undertaking the construction work. But I think it's important to realise that this pump station is not operating all of the time. It's operating in a flood situation, so the Clyde River is going to be in flood at the same time that the pump station's operating, which will minimise some of the impacts at the discharge point. In terms of impacts upstream, this is a very highly modified drain that links through to the pump station, but we do need to undertake an assessment of the in-stream habitat there, just to understand both the impacts of the pump station and detention. So there's a whole lot of values, in-stream values, as well as cultural values that we need to consider as we're working through this design process.
Yeah, I'd just say it's better to get that sorted up front, because whakatū are very litigious around, you know, if we don't get the process right, that's all.
Thank you. I have a recommendation, I have a mover and a seconder. We look forward to seeing the proposal come back to us. Good luck with that, Brett. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Item number 9, proposed meeting amendments. Welcome, Louise. Just 2 different ones. Hawke's Bay Crematorium Committee and Civic Administration.
Happy to move, Your Worship.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, just to advise the date for that Civic and Admin Subcommittee meeting is the 4th of October.
Yes.
At 9 a.m.
Thank you. So have a mover and a seconder. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Request received under the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act, Lagoimas. Thank you, Louise.
Thank you. Happy for the report to be taken as read. Happy for any questions.
Any questions on the Lagoima request? Happy to move from the chair. Seconded, Councillor Watkins. No further questions or comments. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried.
Thank you.
This is item 11. This is recommendations for Rural Hall Subcommittee meeting held on the 5th of September. Have we everyone's received that separately? Just checking. Would any of our Rural Community Board representatives wish to speak on this item? Thank you, Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Worship. Just acknowledging it took 2 meetings to get the fine-tuning of this decision-making, and feel very, very comfortable with the extra work that was done both by Kev Carter in the community services space and with a team from, I'm going to call them building services, but probably haven't got their name right, to be out, have a look at these halls in person. I'm very satisfied that we're making the right decisions on the right halls.
Right,
and spending all of our money, which is what it's there to do.
Fantastic.
Happy
Such
to move.
Important. Our rural halls are so important to our community, our rural community, offers so many opportunities. So you happy to move, Councillor Kerr? Seconded, Councillor Redstone. I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. We'll move now to item 13, which is the stabling investment for Tamoana Showgrounds. We have Sophie from Horse of the Year, welcome. And so we'll go to item 13 while we're waiting for the team to come down for the item 12. Welcome, Sophie. Welcome, Bruce.
Through Your Worship, so just introducing this paper, as the paper details, and take the report largely as read, it's reasonably self-explanatory.
Order, please. Order.
Previously, the Horse of the Year Hawke's Bay Limit have leased or hired stabling arrangements to get through the show. Those arrangements are no longer available, so they're in a position where they have to find an alternative way of providing the same level or an improved level of stabling for the horses that come on site. So this is an approach to do that. It requires Horse of the Year Hawke's Bay to purchase an initial tranche of stabling. It won't be the complete set, but it's a start. It gets them through the 2023 year, and this report requests Council's financial support to enable that to happen. So between Sophie and I, Your Worship, we're happy to take any questions.
Bruce, so this is Councillors, this was a supplementary agenda item, item 13. Has everyone seen that item? You've all had the opportunity to read it? Okay, all right. Did you want to add anything, Sophie, to the paper? Just on the right, yes, there you go.
Hello all. Thank you once again for
us coming towards you, coming to, for funding, but it's actually this time we'd actually like to loan funds to pay back. These stables are extremely important for our event to go ahead. This year, as you know, the borders are open and we have got 99%, 9% sure, don't put it in the paper, 2 Australian teams coming already. So it's going to be a huge show, and without these stables we can't do anything of any sort of premier level. We can't do international, and we also can't provide even enough stables to get the horses through. So it's absolutely vital for our event to get these. So that's what I can say at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr?
Thank you, and thank you, Sophie. Just a couple of questions, and my apologies, they may be in the paper as I scroll through it. The number of events during the year that can also use these facilities. So I'm guessing the money-making potential of these. And also I'm intrigued as to, you spoke about horses coming from elsewhere. The value of those horses, and why is it so important to have them in these beautiful but very safe stables?
Yep. So of the first of the groups that can reuse, and so currently the grounds have an MOU with Show Jumping Hawke's Bay, Dressage Hawke's Bay, and a lot of groups use the grounds. So we're thinking we're probably going to be able to hire them out to people at least 16, 18 events a year. Don't quote me on that, but there's people that have top horses that costs around sort of $10,000 up to $100,000 will want them in very good stables. The reason why we need these stables is we do at our event what you call CDI, which is International Standard Federation horses, and they have to be in a 4x4 and they have to be animal welfare. The current stables don't. Also, the time frame in which the horses stay on the grounds is up to 10 days for some of them from South Island, flying from over Australia. You can imagine how tired they are. They need a space. They need to be able to kick out. So the stables currently at the grounds are okay for a 2-day show, but they cannot withstand longer, plus they don't pass the soon-to-be introduced regulations.
Thank you. Councillor Sears?
Thank you. Through you, Ms. Andrus, apologies from me too, because I had to scroll it as well, because we only found it an hour ago. How long is Hoy's contract in the Hawke's Bay? I'm trying to understand how long the guarantee is that Hoy is here.
Yes, so we've got every 5 years we get reviewed. So we're just out. What we've done this year is we've carried the next 5 years review over 1 year, just because you can understand with the grounds being sold. They just wanted to know what was happening. Yes. We haven't got it in writing yet. We've just had a very positive response from ESNZ that if the master plan is up to what they require to go ahead, we're looking at hopefully another 20 years on top. But that's definitely not in writing yet. It's just been talked about. That's what we're starting to talk about. So you're looking at 5 plus 20.
Or 1 and then 5
Or
plus
definitely
20.
5.
Okay, supplementary through you again, Ms. Sandra. So if the contract for some reason wasn't renewed, what would be the situation with the stables?
A couple of options. We've already had groups like NEC, which is Taupo Equestrian Centre, wanting to buy them. They're very, very sought after. The supplier we're using is actually breaking into the New Zealand market, and he's already got multiple people wanting to view them. He's giving them to us for a very fair price to break the market, and we know we could sell them because they can come down. Once they're up, they can come down. We can honestly sell them pretty quickly, or half of them, or the grounds might want them. Regardless of how our event goes ahead, they still need them.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further speakers. Councillor Barber?
You could, are they like pop-up stable things? Are they real lightweight type?
No, they're not lightweight.
I'm just looking at the cost of 100 stables at $500,000. They don't seem to cost much.
We've got a few quotes. Yeah, they can. The reason why they are portable. Yes, they could be sturdier if you made them with much bigger sort of steel RHS and things like that, but they are definitely of an engineering standard that will withstand. There's a 10-year warranty with them. We're thinking they're sort of around that sort of 20-25 year mark before you'd even wonder what, looking at the maintenance of them. And the board that will be making the sides of them has got usually about a 10-year lifespan before you even look at replacing it. So they're pretty, when I say mobile, you wouldn't want to put them up and down very easily.
No, I'm just trying to get my head around the construction and whatnot. I won't.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon?
All I was going to do is move it, that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dixon, thank you. Councillor Sholom?
Thank you, Your Worship. Some questions for Mr. Allen, potentially. So I'll just chuck these out there. I noticed in 4.6 of the report it talks about there might be an option for purchase of the stables to be supported through the Three Waters Reform Better Off funding, and this to be a kind of backup, as I understand, if something else doesn't get funded. How are we funding it otherwise? I'm sorry, I too have had to scan this, so...
Yeah, through Your Worship. So we've detailed in the report that we will loan fund this purchase. We've an assumed interest rate of 5%. The Horse of the Year will meet those financing costs for us as well. So nil effect, nil cost to the ratepayer, a completely ring-fenced piece of debt that the Horse of the Year will repay back over 10 years.
Follow-up question, if I may, Your Worship. Now, forgive me, this may be revealing my own ignorance around how Hoy is structured and whatnot, so I'm going to ask this question of you, Mr. Allen, but it may be our guest ends up answering. How is Hoy structured, and how does council have peace of mind that the loan can be repaid? Say another COVID event comes through and prevents events being run, and there's significant financial impact upon the organisation that council's loaned the funds to. How can we ensure that the ratepayer is going to be repaid if we don't own the assets to leverage as well?
Yes, certainly. So part of the financing agreement that we'll put in place will be a clause that if the loan repayments can't be made, then council can take ownership of the stables. And given that, from 1st of April next year, council will own the showgrounds, they'll become an important and integral part of the infrastructure on that site. So I think that's probably the key assurance that council can have. And I guess the other thing, we are a third shareholder of Horse of the Year Hawke's Bay Limited, and as part of that, it's sort of a shareholder responsibility that we're taking with this transaction as well.
Thank you. That gives me a little bit more peace of mind, because when I read that we weren't going to be the owners of the assets, I was a little bit worried. What happens in the worst case? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sholom. So I have a mover and a seconder. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you for coming in today, Sophie. We'll move on now to item 12, which is the Three Waters Better Off Support Package, Tranche 1. Welcome, Mr McLeod. While we didn't have, we don't very often get a lump sum of $8.7 million from the government to spend. Our business is growth and managing growth and infrastructure for growth. And how we do that, while there's so many nice to have things, we have a paper in front of us that recommends that the Better Off funding is spent largely on managing and planning for our Heritonga growth, expansion and acceleration. So, as an introduction, welcome, Mr McLeod.
Thank you, Your Worship. Kia ora, good afternoon, councillors. I think most of the detail is set out in the report, and I have spoken to you previously at a workshop about the details of the proposal we're putting forward for the Three Waters Better Off support package funding. This is for tranche 1 of the funding that's been signalled, and as the Mayor has quite rightly said, stemming back to your decision making around the annual plan and the budget, and setting up a focused area to manage the council's growth agenda. There was sort of thinking at that time that this funding would be applied in the main to that program, and there is some other projects around that, but that is the principal basis for the proposal that's put forward. We are in the middle of engaging with Māori on the Better Off proposal, as we're obliged to under the rules of it. and I've actually just come running from a meeting to be here to present this paper in that regard. That's going relatively well. There is a very high degree of support, particularly for the capability building piece of that and recognising the needs of growth. We're also in the process of getting some feedback through from central government agencies as to how well our package aligns with the criteria, and at this stage, that feedback is pretty positive from, again, a conversation I've just had at about 11:30 this morning. So that process is underway. There may be a need to make some adjustments, but overall we think that the package that we're proposing fits very well with the criteria set out by the Department of Internal Affairs, and also very well, more importantly, with the Council's priorities around housing, growth and growth infrastructure that again we talked about last week. And if the money is able to be applied to those priorities, then in my view, the community will truly be better off because of this better off funding. Thank you.
If I could just add through you, Your Worship, in particular in relation to the iwi capability capacity building, we've been engaging, but it's also in the context of we don't do this in isolation from some of the growth work with our other partners in the region, particularly as we develop a future development strategy that is a tripartite approach in councils with Napier City Council, Regional Council, and just to remind you, if you weren't aware, that in addition to the $1 million that we're putting on the table for capacity building, Napier City Council is putting $700,000 of their better off funding into capacity building. And part of this is reflecting that as we go forward in terms of land and natural resource management, everything's now in a partnership construct, and what iwi and mana whenua are saying to us consistently is their aspirations around doing this in a partnering way at the governance, executive and technical level, and we need to support basically the building of iwi and mana whenua's capacity to be able to engage as partners in this process. And this is certainly not the destination, but it's a first step into how do we meaningfully work with our partners to increase their capacity to play that role.
Thank you. Councillor Travis?
I'd like to move these recommendations, and in particular I want to endorse the capability enhancement, because I feel very often it's been positively undemocratic the way in which we've landed tangata whenua requiring research from them and support when they actually haven't had the infrastructure to be able to manage that. So that's an excellent initiative.
Thank you, Councillor Travis. Councillor Sears?
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. I do have a couple of questions and possibly a couple of suggestions for amendments as well. Firstly, thank you, Ross, and thanks for the time last week to go through it as well, because it is, as the Mayor says, a lot of money, and we want to spend it well. And I also understand that there's criteria for the Better Off support program, so we do need to align to those criteria. But it does the support package refers specifically to supporting communities to transition to a sustainable and low emissions economy by including building resilience to climate change and natural hazards, etc., etc. I think it's really important, as I mentioned in the workshop, that the community vision and input into sustainable transitions and the local placemaking will be really important, not only to get community on board, but to make sure that we're fulfilling actually the visions of our community about, you know, how they want to live in the future. Can you just talk me through the opportunities you see for the community to engage in the discussions with council through this, about their preferences and aspirations for transitions to more sustainable ways of living, both in regards to this program, but also in relationship to the other opportunities that are going to align alongside it?
Through you, Your Worship, thank you, Councillor Sears. Yes, happy to talk about that. I think the programs that we're envisaging in tranche one particularly the local area plans, I guess, would be where I would see a focus on engagement of communities. Obviously, they have a job to do, and I guess trying to marry the council's infrastructure planning, the council's provision of amenities and connections, and actually improving that as greater densities come into neighbourhoods. But they're also about community aspirations for their neighbourhoods and how things can work more effectively, both for people that live there at the moment and people that will come into those areas with greater density. So that's a particular area in this Tranche 1 program. I think Tranche 1 has had a relatively short development timeframe, so that there hasn't perhaps been the opportunity for quite as extensive community engagement. But as we head towards Tranche 2, there's also likely to be opportunities for the community to help the council shape what that looks like. There is going to be a requirement for co-design of that package with Māori, but there will also be opportunities, I think, for community input into that. I think more broadly, what you're also sort of talking towards in the issues you raised both last week and today are really, how do we get that community engagement in where the council's direction is heading its investment overall, not just for the areas that are affected by local area plans. And I think back to the first long-term plan we did when I came to council, which is over 1 decade ago now, it's getting on for 2, where we had a pre-engagement with the LTP around what would the future of Hastings look like, and that served us really well. We got quite a bit of interest because we had a light rail train running up and down the Havelock Road on the cover of it. Many of you may remember that document, but it really was a basis for engaging the community in those transitions, and that document and that engagement obviously led into the LTP, but it also led to programs like the highway program coming out of that, and the cycle and walkway network. It led to strengthening of the district plan around productive soils protection at that stage. We're having that conversation again now. But there were several initiatives that come out of that, a compact urban form. It led to the Hastings urban design sort of workshops, and that led to the medium density strategy. We've just reviewed that again. So it's probably timely, and it'll be up to the new council to consider how it wishes to go about those sorts of engagements and to what extent. But I think that is really that broader opportunity around the LTP as to how that engagement around transitions to a more sustainable future, that would be one area where council might consider undertaking those discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one more, if that's right, Your Worship, and then I might come back with a few suggestions after others have spoken.
Yes, thank you.
In the funding table, there's 220,000 that we've tied to some partnerships with the Environment Centre. I'd just like to make a suggestion to a change to that, to align that to across our partners or suitable partners at the time. So I might just work out some wording for that so that we can use that money where appropriate for different activities.
I think it's a regional, yes, I think that's a good idea, a regional environmental strategy or something like that.
I'll just
thank you. Councillor Dixon?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I'm just looking at 3.8, by accepting better or funding. I just want a real guarantee here. Council is not supporting or making a commitment to the proposed 3 water reforms. Have we got that in writing, or is it only a hearsay word of mouth?
No, through you, Worship, it's absolute. So by agreeing to this, we're not signed up that we're required to support the 3 waters reform that's on the table. That is absolutely a feature of the agreement.
I think it's very important that the people that are out there listening actually hear that message. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it is, and that has been part of the criteria, and our council has made that decision to accept the funding, the first tranche, on that basis. Councillor Sears?
Is no one else speaking? No?
No.
Maybe for the environment, via Hawke's Bay Environment Centre line, we could change it to something like via council programs and community partnership programs, something like that. Then it could be in-house delivery or through different partnerships within the community, whether that's Environment Centre or others. How does that sound?
Yes, I think that the staff could help us with something is not as prescriptive, but making sure that we are working with our partners and the community. Something along those lines.
Or via council programs and community programs or community partnerships. That would give us both options probably in that.
So this is on 4.6. This is the project plan. This isn't the recommendations. So
No.
this is including this 4.6 into the recommendations and not being so prescriptive.
Exactly, because we're not sure, especially with the changes in the container return schemes, all the changes that are happening in Waste Futures, it may be different partnerships or, as I say, in-house activities that we wish to. And I'm assuming that work will come through Eco Districts or whatever the new committee is that's working with that. I don't think we need to.
So I think that it's very simple. Accelerated and additional environmental behaviour programs, both regionally and with our communities or something like that. I think that it's...
Well, do you not like this via council programs and community partnership programs? I think that covers both quite well.
Yeah, I think, Madam Chair, we could reflect that just by incorporating an amendment to say that in respect of Project 5, accelerated and additional environmental behavioural influence programs, that's the heading of it, amend the proposal to remove the words via Hawke's Bay Environment Centre and related text and references, and insert the words via council programs and community partnership programs, with corresponding commentary to be added to this proposal to be submitted.
Thank you. We've got those. That's perfect.
Just like that. Thank you.
Okay, so, all right, Lynn, we'll call those now. Or Vicky, thank you. If we can get those up on the screen, how lovely. We've got those all captured for us.
And
love the
then
planning.
My other suggestion, I'm not sure how people feel about this, maybe just including something around, the engaging with communities as to their vision for more sustainable ways of living. We could add that perhaps into Project 3 within that table, the growth planning medium density acceleration. We'll have the local area plans to be able to engage with communities, but we could open that a little bit to ensure that we are encompassing their vision, which is all I'm trying to do really is make sure that along with our hard infrastructure, our pipes and pieces that we're going to need to build the infrastructure, we're including the words community and their vision. So we're actually covering both sides of it. I'm sure Ross might find something.
Yeah, so this is we're keeping this a very high level.
Yes,
and
it is high
this
level.
is, this is a key contribution to growth agenda work and housing strategy implementation. Helps deliver low emissions and resilience, housing development and growth, and local placemaking. Which local placemaking I would think would cover off bringing the community with us.
Well, next year when I'm not here and it's happening, I'll make sure that it has, because I think the words community and their vision make sure that that's in there.
Okay.
So I'm happy to leave that
so
to
local
you guys.
placemaking with our community.
And their vision, including their vision.
Their vision?
Thank you. I'd be very happy with that.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Yes, thank you. We only need a couple added at the end.
Give us a minute then.
Yeah, well,
June for a minute.
Councillor Kerr, did you have something you'd like to add?
I was happy to move the recommendations based on what Ross has said.
Well, we've just got an addition to the medium density strategy one.
Yes,
so we're just going to add a couple of words to that. So we'll just take a minute and adjourn the meeting for 2 minutes as we craft up those recommendations. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Resuming. Thank you. Okay, a couple of small additions. If we could have those put up, please. Okay. Can we just enlarge it a bit so we can read it? Thanks. In respect of Project 5, accelerating additional environmental behaviour influence programs, amend the proposal to remove the words via Environment Centre. I'm not sure.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think that's fine. The wording still allows Hawke's Bay Environmental Centre to be one of those groups through community programs, but it just doesn't mean that it's exclusively them, so it probably provides greater flexibility, which I think it would be potentially useful.
Your Worship, I think I'm getting the gist of your worry. Maybe after Hawke's we just say amend the proposal and add after Hawke's Bay Environmental Centre or other council programs. So Hawke's Bay Environment Centre can still stay there, but we have or other council programs and community partnership programs. That's where you're coming from, isn't it?
That's right.
So
yes.
I prefer to see it widened.
yes, so it's going to say.
Councillor Redstone.
Thank you, Worship. I'd prefer to just see it a little bit more obscure, not so targeted at one particular entity because it does give them priority. I think there's a number of entities we could be partnering with over this. And I did like the first one. Just
yeah. Are you, as the mover, Sophie, are you comfortable with that recommendation?
Not the mover, Your Worship.
Oh, sorry,
Sandra.
Geraldine. And the seconder, who was the seconder? Oh. Okay, Councillor Kerr. So are you comfortable with that recommendation? I mean, I didn't think you need the, being specific. I wanted to be very general here because this is about environmental well-being. This isn't about who's delivering and how. So this is, we just need to keep this very, very simple. We've got some money set aside for considering community and council programs for environmental well-being. There doesn't need to be any delivery, how it's delivered, who's delivering it. So I think I would like, as the mover, I wonder if you could, Geraldine, if you could just move those recommendations to reflect those views. That's my thoughts. Thank you.
Sorry, through you, Your Worship, what's up on the board at the moment doesn't make sense. So if we can just take back out the words or other community programs, because the proposal as it's written did name a particular provider, so this amendment would make it more general as you're saying.
So you don't have additional environmental behaviour influence programs through by council programs or community partnership programs.
Yeah. You comfortable with those?
Yes, I just think it's really important, particularly as time goes on, there are going to be more and more organisations well placed to be able to progress this work, and I think it's important not just to pin it down to one particular organisation.
Thank you. So you're comfortable how it reads? Seconder, comfortable how it reads? Thank you. And then the part 2, medium density acceleration, we're adding engaging with communities as to their vision for enabling a more sustainable ways of living. Comfortable with that? Thank you. All right, any further questions or comments? No? We have a mover and a second. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. We now move to the public excluded part of our agenda today. We have 5 items in PX. And I'd like to invite Group Manager Mr Cameron to explain why items 17, 18, 19, 20 and 21 will be in PX.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, these items are all recommended to be public excluded. All the items either involve council in sensitive commercial negotiations, and all councils in possession of other organisations' business information that it's not appropriate to be made public at this time.
Councillors, any questions on these items being in a public excluded part of the agenda? I'm happy to move from the chair. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Dixon, that we now move into a public excluded part of the agenda. Thank you to our community who may have been watching our public agenda part of our meeting today, and now I put the recommendation. All those in favour to move into PX say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that is carried. Thank you for those who have watched and attended our meeting today. Kia ora.